Hi everyone, it's Jess again, and today we are going to be talking about the various jobs I have had throughout the years. Um, I'll be doing what I can to try and stay in order that I had them, but um, I think as you'll see, there were many, so I can't guarantee that they will stay in a correct order. Um, But we will start off with the first one, and that was at the age of about 14. Actually, the age of 14, I started working at a local greenhouse. Um, it was one that pretty much my entire family had worked at and frequented my entire life. I had gone there regularly with my grandma and my mom, more so my grandma and like her friends. So I knew the place well. I liked it there. What I wound up doing was kind of customer service along with kind of restocking, kind of taking the plants from the back greenhouses and filling the front one so that the customers could grab the plants and fill up the carts that they wanted, along with loading the cars with the bigger stuff like the trees and bushes and bags of dirt and manure and whatever. I did that for 2 seasons before they switched their hiring process. And then, so they went from just a standard, application. You walk in, you tell them, hey, I want to work here. They're like, cool, here's the resume, God, I haven't worked in a while. Um, and God, it doesn't work that way anymore. Jeez. Here's the form to fill out. Give us your resume, all of that. Um, and bada bing, bada boom. We'll call you. Maybe you'll hear from us. Um, they changed it over to one of those electronic hiring data like centers that you have to sign up online, make an account, and they'll hire you through that, maybe, if you get recommended. Um, so that was the first time I was introduced to, I guess, the corporate world and realizing that you are just a number. Because even after all of that, they were still asking me about my uncle who hadn't worked there in like 30 years, trying to get me to get him to come back and work there. Um, I think from there, I started working at. See, I want to say the next one was. See, I want to say it was Michigan's Adventure, with a little break in the middle of doing stuff for my grandma, but yeah, that sounds about right. I think it's all over the place for work. Oh yeah, I also did that. Jeez. Um, so yeah, I worked at Michigan's Adventure. Um, I did the landscaping there. Worked in the landscaping department. I was the only male in the department, so uh, that didn't it wasn't a great thing for me. Um, my first assignment there was the shit swamp, as it was referred to by everyone there. I believe it's gone now, but they got in trouble for it, I think, a while ago. And what it was two pits, or like drainage holes in the like back area of the park, where like no one could really see it unless I think you were on top of a couple of the rides. You could maybe see it if you were like knew where to look. Um, it was kind of near the Wildcat area and like the employee parking back there. But I was given the task of going out there with a small like handsaw and a pair of loppers and cutting down like small trees and like other things like that. And just that's it. Um, the the reason it was referred to as shit swamp was because that was where all of their like plumbing and stuff drained. So there were a lot of feminine products, tampons, pads, all of that was out there floating, washed up on the like shore of the lake and pond. It reeked. I'm glad I was at least out there in like the cooler months and like the early to like mid spring, so it at least wasn't too hot. Because my god, I can only imagine what it would be in the summer. That's probably why they got caught. Um, After that, it I got moved out of that into leaf blowing the pavement, while pretty much everyone else on the landscaping team was planting flowers, and that was it. There was never a rotation or anything like that. It was always I leaf blow the park, and they get to plant flowers all day. Um, Even though the whole reason I went to that department was to plant the flowers, because that was what I liked doing, because that was what I did with my grandma. And like, I didn't have a garden of my own, but like that's what I wanted to be doing. um Shortly after that, or maybe before then, I can't quite remember, the foreman uh, was taking a very big unliking to me. I had hair, not long hair by any means, standard male length hair, I would say. Um, but he was adamant that I have to cut it, and that no matter what length that I had it, I still had to cut it. So I think maybe when I first started there, it might have been like shoulder length, and like it might have been too long for dress code at the time, and so I cut it down to where it was like a buzz cut, like kind of fluffy type nonsense. It was, I think, a little bit shorter than my supervisor's hair, but the foreman was still saying, it, you if you don't cut it, we'll fire you, write you up, all of this. So I finally said fuck it, and I had my friends and stepdad and everyone, whoever wanted to, because it was kind of a tradition for me of whoever wants to cut my hair, I'm cutting my hair, come cut it. Um, and I had all of them come out and give me the Walter White treatment with the straight razor. And I went to work, and he finally gave me the thumbs up because there was no hair. I wound up getting somewhere between first and second degree burns on my scalp from working out in the sun because they don't supply hats. You have to pay for those. And I'm not doing that. I don't have the money. I had to pay for gas. So from there, trying to think. Probably went back to helping my grandma more consistently. But she always paid me whatever salary I was making from the previous job. The most we ever made it up to was 10 an hour, so that should tell you something. And I think that was Michigan's Adventure. It was either that or the fruit plant. I think at Michigan's Adventure I was 16. I can't remember. I might have worked there a summer. So I guess the fruit plant, I worked there after I had moved back from college, and was living in my parents' basement. So I was like 20 or 21. I maybe worked there for maybe a month or two at most, probably less. My friends hated me working there. I wound up getting a little bit of frostbite on one of my toes from it. So what it wound up being was I got hired through Manpower to go to this fruit plant, and then they just kind of split you up wherever they want you, or however they end up doing. And I wound up getting put in the freezer, which at the time was the worst place you could have put me. I was wearing like 3 sweatshirts in the summer and cold. Like, I wasn't okay. And and I got put in the freezer. A fun fact, on my first day, one of the new people, I don't know if they were hired through Manpower or otherwise, I would suspect so, they stuck their hand in the cherry pitter, and, well, they figured out why they don't do that. They saw there was a stick in there, and they wanted to get it out, because they didn't want the stick to get, pitted, I guess. So they decided their hand would be better pitted instead. But what my job entailed was standing on a product line in a freezer. Just a really big factory floor, and waiting for fruit to fall into a box and a plastic bag, and then closing the bag. That was it. You just stand in one spot and close a plastic bag when fruit falls in it. Initially, I started on the bigger boxes that they had, but eventually I got moved over to the faster moving line, and almost got put into the in charge of it at the age of 16 or 17 or 21. God, jeez, tired. Yeah. But I was that the job I had at 16? That might have been. I might have worked there at 16. I don't remember. Michigan's Adventure might have been 21. That sounds more right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Because I didn't have a car for the fruit plant, but I did for Michigan's Adventure. So, Michigan's Adventure, I was like 20 or 21. And the fruit plant, I was like 16. So, there's that. We have straightened that out. Alright. So, I am 16 and I am working in a fruit processing plant through manpower in a freezer. I am cold all of the time, and my shift is 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is summer, that is why. Um, that was the worst job I have ever had. I will never do that again. The pay wasn't worth it. I never got a break like I was supposed to. People were supposed to come and relieve me so I could get off the line, but they never did. So I was just stuck there because I couldn't leave. Um, I wound up making friends with a guy across from me who was running the other line, or I guess running the other plastic bag part of the line. Um, he was like 50, between his 40s or 50s, so we became friends. We were chucking like fruit at each other during the middle of the day because what the fuck else are you gonna do for 12 hours a day? And I would always see him, like, every time he would get relieved for a break, he would always look back at me and just feel awful. Like, there would be just that look on his face of just like, oh God, you're still here. Like, he'd come back and then get another break, and, like, he would still see me, like, after he's come back from, like, his lunch and, like, going on his third break, and he'd still see that I'm still standing there, and then eventually he'd be like, I'm relieving you. You go take your lunch. Um, like, he was the only reason I ever really got breaks. So I guess if you see this, I don't remember your name, but I guess if you recognize me as the, like, 16-year-old that you were flicking frozen blueberries at the processing plant in Michigan. Hi, thank you. Um, and then, let's see. I also worked at the Double J Resort. I'm sure a few of you know that place as the place where the Electric Forest Music Festival happens. Um, I also worked the Forest Music Festival as well, just not the music part. I was in the kitchen doing the VIP breakfast in one of the places. Uh, God, Sundance? Yeah, I think it was the Sundance. Um, so what I did there was the, like, catering dishwashing. Um, Mostly I was a dishwasher, but on Fridays, Saturdays, and, like, Sundays, and whenever they needed, like, wedding, like, extras, I did, like, prep for weddings and, like, serving for weddings. Um, I worked with my stepdad and one of his, like, family friends that, like, also worked there and was the manager. I That was actually the first time I wound up uh, really, really just learning how much work does not matter. I, yeah, we, so every Friday I don't know if they still do, but they did a rodeo where they would get, it would be, you could buy tickets preemptively if you wanted, or you could just buy them at the gate, and there would be like food, and then an actual rodeo where there was, I think, horse riding, bull riding. I don't know. I never went. I only served the food and then I left. The moment the food was done, I left. Whatever a rodeo is, man. I, uh, but they did it every weekend, every Friday or Saturday. I don't remember, but I think it was Saturday. So every Friday we would have to prep for it, all the food, and we got to a point where we were just prepping so much food and it was all going to waste because no one was showing up. But eventually, one person on the wait staff spoke up because we were most of the time like just throwing it away, and it hurt because like I knew that wasn't the right thing to do, but also like I don't know what else to do with it. Like I don't know who needs it. I don't know where to take it. Um, but someone on the wait staff, their I think adopted mother, I don't know, someone in their family, um, came over and like saw that we had some extra food one day and was like, "Hey, like, what are you gonna do with it?" And we were like, we take whatever, like some of what we want, but usually the rest just goes away. And she mentioned that she like does stuff for the homeless, and so everything that we wound up not using then wound up going to her instead. That like could. Um, so that was actually a nice thing to have come from that, even though it was still a tremendous amount of waste um, every week. I can say some of you might actually recognize me from Electric Forest as um, I did make an appearance through the, uh, I guess, venues or to, I don't know what you want to call it, festival. One of the days when I was working there, um, I, because, it was one of the last years I was out there and it was really, really busy and popular. I didn't want to drive my car into the festival and get stuck, so I walked all the way through because it was a lot faster than driving all the way around like the entire town to get in. Especially since I lived, like a mile from there, so why not? Um, but after 6, 8 hours of dishwashing in all black attire and getting soaking wet from both sweat and just dishwater, um, and then having to walk back home in the summer, July, August heat, you know, through the nice hot sun that we've been provided with lately, especially out there in Rothbury. And the people at Forest will know especially. Um, I wound up just being like, it's too goddamn hot out here, and I. This is Forest. I'm gonna walk home in my underwear. And so I did. I wound up, I think I took off all my clothes except my underwear because it was that bad. Like everything was soaked. And I just walked home in whitey tighties. And I said, yep. I saw a few cars look back, so that was interesting. Never had that happen. Um, it was also interesting to pass by the police and also nothing. Um, but, when it's 85, 95 degrees out and you're wearing all black, I'd rather be mostly naked. If it's okay for your dad to do it to you. Alright. Now, let's see. We've done that. We've got did more stuff for grandma. I did one of for like 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, it was 2 weeks because it was when Electric Forest did the double weekend header thing or something. So my mom was working at uh, a medical clinic, or like a cleaning company who had her working for a medical clinic, and she let them know that, hey, I'm gonna not be able to work for these 2 weeks. Is it all right if my kid takes over for me for this time? And they were like, yes, as long as they do these things and the work is good. So for 2 weeks, I wound up cleaning a health clinic. And they had no issues with it. That was like a third shift job. I did snow removal for commercial businesses, along with I did that somewhat at the same time with working at Meyer. I quit Meyer before I quit the snow removal. Um, at Meyer, I did third shift stocking, but the store was open 24/7, so that did not go well for me because there were people all the time. They wound up asking more and more of me. I was hired for general merchandise stocking, and they wound up getting me over to the food side eventually, which I did not handle well. And eventually I said, fuck it, I'm out. I called my wife when I was out on break one day, and I said, I can't do this. I'm not doing okay. Um, I was getting to the point of suicide again. And so we talked about it, and I clipped my name tag to my boss's mirror on her car since I parked right behind her, and I left. Um, with the snow removal, I was hired. Um, that's actually the job I've been paid the most at per hour, but didn't really get the hours without basically killing yourself doing it. Did that for 2 seasons. My wife helped me for like one of them, kind of on and off when she wanted to or could. That was more to get away from her mother and spend more time with me than anything else, and also to get me like make sure the work was done faster so that I could spend more time at home. Um, I say that job wasn't terrible. It was just a lot of labor, and I already have to shovel my own driveway, and I don't need to be doing all the businesses everywhere. So, let's see. Is there anyone I'm forgetting? Oh, yep, yep. I also worked for. It wasn't technically OnStar, but it like was a call center, like telecom nonsense that was contracted that eventually got like you know uh, through to OnStar. Um, I was a call center for OnStar. Is I guess the best way to put it. I don't remember the company name. I just know that it was OnStar. I worked like for is the company I had to be like representing. Um, so with that, I initially applied and was hired for uh, IT and or like a technical like fixing like uh, IT tech solutions, because I did not want anything to do with your regular like I didn't want to do with the sales. I didn't want to do with the regular shit. If I was gonna take calls, I wanted it to be about tech. God damn it. Um, During all the interviews, I made that very clear, and they assured me that it was going to be like an IT job, or like it was going to be an IT job. Fast forward to the actual job. I am a customer retention representative, or just in the customer retention department, which means when you call and you want to cancel your service, I was the one you talked to. And I'm the one who says, no, you don't. I can give you a better deal. I was pissed. The worst part was is I was really good at it. Um, During training, I wasn't paying attention to any of it. I actually beat what was it, Super Mario Party, the first one that came out on the Switch. I beat that in the first 2 days of training because I literally was not paying attention to training at all. While everyone else was like trying to figure out how to do everything, I already knew because I've been around call centers crap long enough. Like I've heard the lingo, I've heard all of it. I know. I know what all this is. I know how to take a call. I know. Um and So most of training for me was just spent playing video games and still being the top of the class. And then at the end of it, I wound up telling the trainer, like, for my own mental health, I can't do this job. It's not for me. Like, I'm good at it, sure, but I don't feel good at the end of it. Like, I feel like I'm scamming people. Like, I had people telling me, like, my husband died and I'm on, like, Social Security. I don't have the money, but I am, me, as the employee, was obligated to offer them two things before I could accept their cancellation, according to the policy. I said bullshit on that. And if they were telling me things like that, I knew that they were at least desperate enough to where they didn't want the policy enough, and I would just take it. You don't want it, don't take it. I'm not going to force it on you. I don't care. If they want your product, they'll come back for it. That's how that works. If you had a good enough product. Oh, was there anyone else in there? Oh, I don't think I talked about the shipping and receiving. Um, so I did shipping and receiving in a place with my mom and stepdad. My stepdad was in the foundry. My mom was in shipping and receiving with me. Well, I guess I was there with her. I was the bitch in the shipping and receiving department, where all I did was whatever everyone told me to. I painted things. I touched up things that needed painting. I climbed up on things that needed climbing up on. I boxed things that needed boxing. I labeled things that needed labeling. I, whatever needed done, I did. Um, Unless it was a very like specialty thing of the like actual spray paint gun or the actual like fancy paint that the painters were actually doing. I wound up getting contracted there. Well, contracted, loose term there. Um, After the second fire, I wasn't there for the first, but after the second one, um, I was the one who was basically tasked with cleaning up after it. Um, because like Surf Pro didn't really do much other than kind of fix one wall and call it good. So the rest of it kind of fell onto me. Um, it didn't last much longer after that. However, that is the only job to this day that I have ever gotten a Christmas bonus from. Like an actual Christmas bonus. It was $100. Um, let's see. I think that might be it. So I'm not thinking of any others. Because we had all of those. I would say my grandma taking care of her in the middle of that. All, you know. And I mean, taking care of my wife's mom for like 5 years. Maybe 3, I can't remember. I don't remember how long she was alive. I think it was 3. Felt like forever. Anyway, Those are the jobs of a trans woman. At least me, anyway. What have you been up to? Oh, actually, I remembered another. God damn it. Jeez. Um, I also worked at AutoZone. I don't think I said that one. That one is the last one. Uh, so with that one, that was actually the longest lasting job I ever had for a consecutive time frame. Um, I worked there for actually over a year with no time off even. Like I didn't take a single day off. I worked extra days in there. Was called in on days I wasn't supposed to come in. Other people didn't show up. Things like that. But anyway, I wound up. The reason I had to leave there, or I guess left there, was my ex roommate and wife. They were hearing all the things that I was saying and coming back with from both customers and employees. Things that they were saying to me about me, not really like about me because they didn't know that I was trans, because I hadn't come out to really anyone there. Um, but they were very transphobic, very anti Democrat, very we have to kill them all, we have to get rid of them, this and that, and just a lot of hate speech going on from the customers and a few of the employees. And it became very clear that if I was going to be me and going to continue to try and remain like mentally healthy, that that wasn't going to be it. Um, so one day, both my ex roommate and my wife um, kind of sat me down and said, "You don't work there anymore. Um, like, it's not safe for you, it's not good for you. You don't work there." And that was probably one of the biggest reliefs I have ever had, to hear that someone actually cared about my safety like that, to know what that was doing to me. Um, and I guess with that, I will leave you all there. Um, those are all the jobs of a trans woman. And now I have become a housewife with some cats and some other random animals. Hope y'all have a good day.